Well, I think we should get started at 6, and Susie's going to be late. So, welcome to this pre-session. You can stay, but it's not that exciting.
I'll pass, thank you. Have a nice night.
Let's, just for the camera, go around and say who we are.
Councilor Yarborough.
Mayor Peck.
Councilor Christ.
Councilor McBoyd.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
And Councilor, who's missing here?
Okay.
Oh, Matt, can you just say your name and...
Yep, Councilmember Popkin, present.
And Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring is running late. So let's just go around and give updates on our whatever we attended. You want to start, Matthew? We're just giving updates on anything that we were liaison to.
And he's gone.
I guess he doesn't.
We were having problems here earlier.
Hello.
I'm here. I think you were just asking updates on what, Mayor Beck?
Whatever board you attended
Oh, sure.
this month.
This month. Sustainability Advisory Board and Airport Advisory Board are probably the most relevant here, since we already took action on the Colorado Municipal League stuff with the construction defects law and some of the other bills that Sandy's brought for us. Sustainability Advisory Board, in the last month and a half, actually, I think the main thing is like they received the topic on the gas station discussion that council referred to SAV, that starting discussion and some broader code understanding. No decisions have been made there. And then I think just the other thing I'll note is per our conversation back in February, when we were talking about kind of scope creep of some of the boards, there have been 2 instances where did make a couple comments about like kind of overstepping the SAV's role by 2 different individuals who are advisory board members there. That's been managed, but just noting that continues to persist at least a little bit in terms of topic. First was regarding the transportation mobility plan and constitutional rights of camera, or the constitutional privacy violations of cameras. That was reined in a little bit in conjunction with the new chair and staff. And most recently it was on how much of a broad base or like the environmental due diligence for the compost facility site. So just noting that that's being monitored per your direction, Mayor, and I think Harold's comments as well. In terms of the Airport Advisory Board, it was a short meeting on the voluntary noise abatement program. There were comments made from a range of folks in the gallery as well about that. I think there's some questions about the communication of that since it is a voluntary plan. People are interested in how the airport does communicate those VNAP, voluntary noise abatement program guidelines. That will probably be continued discussion. I don't think I have a ton more unless people have questions for me on this.
Okay, thank you. I'm curious about the comments about the compost facility, the environmental, because I got from one of the environmentalists today an 11-point recommendations for what we should do. So were they?
Yeah, so it wasn't about, that was not the topic of conversation when it came up. It was more regarding the environmental liability and environmental site assessment that was done from a contamination standpoint. There was some back and forth and some legal guidance that we all received via email.
Okay.
That came from a board member from SAB, that's Ethan Augreen. So he had brought that up in the board member context as well. I think that was the end of February meeting or early March meeting. So that was what I was referring to there.
Okay.
I did see the email that you referred to today as well, but that has not come up in the board yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Mayor, on that one, just for council's knowledge, there was an email chain that I received, and I responded to it related to some comments that Lisa made about board members going into operational areas and direction to staff. And my response on the email was, this is getting close to direction.
Right.
The individual requested that I retract it because it was connected to comments made in front of PRAB. I sent an email to the individual basically saying my comments were not to what another staff paid person was saying. It was related to Lisa's comments on direction. So just so council knows, I did send a clarifying email on that issue.
Okay. Thanks. Aaron, you want to go?
Sure. The Housing and Human Services, they continue to be rightfully nervous and continue to have conversations surrounding funding, CDBG funding, stuff that we're seeing from the federal government, obviously. So they have those talks almost every meeting, as things are always changing. And then the other thing that they're working hard on, as we've already seen a piece of it, is improving their process for their grant allocation recommendations that we get every year. And so they have a special meeting actually coming up this Saturday morning where they're going to continue talking about the interview/visitation process and how they want to possibly change that process to make it more efficient for both the organizations as also for the board. Then for Planning and Zoning, last month they met actually as the Board of Adjustments and not as the Planning and Zoning Commission. They had two variances in front of them. One was a fence variance and the other was a sign variance. They ruled 5-0 unanimously in favor of both variances, so they will not really be coming in front of us. They didn't have any regular Planning and Zoning Commission items last month. This month they don't either. Tomorrow's meeting is canceled, but they do have a educational session on the following week. They have 2 items that they're in. They've been when they haven't had as much work during months, they have been filling it in with educational items to continue to improve each one of their knowledge base when it comes to planning and zoning. I think that's been more of a thing since after Matthew joined the Planning and Zoning Commission. I've really noticed an uptick in educational items that the Planning and Zoning Commission has entertained. So they're continuing to do that.
I think that's a good idea. Yep, really good.
Because most Planning and Zoning Commissioners have specific, they have specialties.
Right.
That's their, they could be landscape architects or real estate lawyers or what have you. And so providing a much more encompassing knowledge base, I think, is only beneficial for our P&Z.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
The consortium of cities met last week, and we discussed what each of the communities were doing about sustainability in regards to, our recycling, our trash, and our composting. I said I couldn't say too much about anything because we have some things that we're looking at, and so left it as that. And we gave each city gave a little presentation, and Sandy and then gave me a little 7-slide presentation to present to them. Sounds like some cities are doing some interesting things. It looked like the city of Broomfield, they were chiming in about tearing down the First Bank Center. They were able to repurpose or collect and not put it in a landfill 80-some% of that building.
That's amazing.
That was really impressive. And then there was some other things. I got an email on it, but my computer is let me hold the charge for a while. And so then last night, PRAB, we did not discuss what was going on with the Disco Hotel. We did have 2 people speak at public invited to be heard. I think one had an 11-point document, recommendation that they handed around to everybody, and so we mostly talked in the real meeting. It was about year in kind of review, and then what we're looking at for CIP. So that was it.
Okay, so Visit Longmont's gone to quarterly meetings, and the next one is tomorrow. But as we know, we've got things going on with Visit Longmont, so I'll keep you apprised of when the second phase of that begins. Let's see, the Water Board, we've seen various things come from them. Water conservation, the fee in lieu, or it's cash in lieu for the water, and then now the watershed is on the agenda, so we'll be hearing more about that. That next meeting is on the 21st. Let's see, the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. They're looking for a new CEO to replace Aaron Fosdick. The pay range is $125K to $147K, in case you want to,
Oh, boy.
right, in case you want to refer someone.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Or
That too.
ship.
That too. We have these out.
I think they are still taking applications and they're creating an interview process. They ask that all people in the city, but also especially if you're related to a business, to complete the Elevate survey, which is at www.longmont.org, and it pretty much comes up with a banner. The big work is to align LEDP with the city, and so the conversation, and I personally believe that business and government tend to work a little bit differently, so that's important to have that understanding with each other and build that communication a little bit more. We talked about a variety of things. The mayor, I was representing her point of view and shared what had happened with PRPA, and that board was surprised and rather supportive of our endorsement of new turbines. I think that's important.
It is.
And anyway, the talked a bit about just the uncertainty that's going on in the business community, and talking with the Chamber of Commerce to try to come to council with a list of things that they think would be pro-business in the city, and just as a way of invitation to bridge that with LEDP, and then afterwards realize that some of the mid to large businesses are already having, because of uncertainty, there's a pause on much of their ordering from their customers because of their
Uncertainty.
Well, and if they're a type of business that provides capital or inventory type stuff, which is my segue to talk about the pension board, because we got our market update from our Innovest people. And it was interesting that they said in the short term, tariffs will likely prompt many companies to pause capital spending and inventory accumulation. Okay, here we are. This particular board doesn't meet until the 20th of May, so they've just been sending us little updates. The good news is the bond market fixed income has been steady, although I would like to see it improve more. And the equities are all over the place. So,
Yep.
so that's just the way that's going to be. So the North I-25 Coalition has done a lot of work. Originally, in 2013 we got together, they said they wouldn't get I-25 finished until 2075. Didn't think any of us would be around to see that, actually. So they started this coalition. They're all the way down to segment 2, which is our segment over at Firestone there. We have 2 female engineers on the project, Abra and Heather, that work for CDOT. And I have to commend these women. They've done a great job in not just sticking to the plan, but correcting safety issues as they work their way down. So segment 2, which is ours, is taking a little longer, but a lot of that has to do with water diversion. And as you recall, during the flood, that part of the highway was taken out. So very much appreciate their work on that. They are actually a little more positive about federal funding, in that they think this administration is more interested in the capacity of our roadways. So they think that maybe if we want to add a 3rd lane as they go further south towards Westminster and Thornton, they want to add another lane in the center there. And so they think they may be able to get more funding, because transportation is expensive. And with enthusiastic.
Well, I'm
because
trying
she's
to
just come back
visualize
from-
that. Yeah, I know, I came back from that transportation, I'll update you.
Yeah, and so Phil Greenwald was not able to participate in this particular one. So we're just visioning what the next focuses should be. The toll lanes are open north of us, but they're not charging tolls yet. So that's also exciting. And the slowdown should be better going north, and probably maybe a little worse going south. Segment 2, which is ours, 3B and 4 are the big concerns. And then the further south, they're still working on getting final funding for those extra lanes, which are going to be bus on and off ramps and down. They're very Thornton want to make it in the center of the highway rather than come to the side like we have. So we'll see how it goes. But this has connected Berthoud and Johnstown to the highway.
So now all we need is buses.
Buses, yeah, so the buses can just go continuously through, which is what the plan with the bus lane. So,
Great.
yeah.
Okay, was that it?
I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So last night was transportation meeting, and guess who was there? RTD.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I might hear and say.
We had quite a few from RTD. Chris, Quinn, Greg, Sage something, some other guy. It was like, I don't know, maybe 5 of them were there. So the update, Vision Zero, so far we got over 3,269 applications for federal, what did I put down right here? Let me see. Oh, they had the Vision Zero meeting. Did you go to that meeting?
I missed the
I missed that one too.
Yeah, which is a bummer.
Okay, so for Vision Zero, this is the problem. The federal funding. So there are over 3,269 applications for the funding for Vision Zero, period.
From different
Mhm.
municipalities. Okay.
Yeah. Of course, they're gonna reapply again, and hopefully we'll be able to get funding for Vision Zero. The next Vision Zero meeting will be in June at the Senior Center. There's something called the Chrissy Grant. They're still waiting on that grant. So we are still good for the money that Joe Magoo's, that $1 million we got, but I guess we get it in 2026.
I think so.
Yeah, so that's still good, but we're still waiting on the Chrissy Grant.
From what I've heard, if you apply in 2024 for these grants, you will get them, but going forward, I don't know if there's going to be any money available.
We barely made that for that $1 million.
Rushed it through.
So the service operation for the micro transit, we have 21,411 rides so far since December. The demand is 91%. So we're looking at increasing vehicles. And we were talking about this, and I felt like we need to communicate. I think the fear of filling them there, that department, is that, if we have more people, if we have more vehicles, can we meet the demand, because the wait is so long right now for some of the times. And but I told them they just need to communicate that due to the great success of the microtransit, there may be a longer wait, more than usual, so please bear with us as we're getting another vehicle. So I feel like I was telling them that you have to communicate that with people. If not, they're just going to go to something else or go get in their car and drive, right? So they are talking about, so we had a public invited to be heard. The gentleman was talking about how our routes are not past 7 p.m., and it's very challenging if you get off from work at a certain time. Same thing if you're waiting, and ride Longmont doesn't go past a certain time, so you're kind of stuck. right? So it actually makes you you have to drive, not even if you want to, you have to drive. And so RTD said that they're gonna try to get some more routes. They're gonna propose some routes to go past 7 p.m. Longmont has the highest performing route for Flex Ride. Has been increasing, and they need more operators in order to have more routes with Flex Ride. BRT will open in 2027 in quarter 2. They're talking about we will have 2 hubs.
On 119?
Mm-hmm. So
2 hubs. Where are they gonna
I
be?
think what's Park Ridge?
So one's the First and Main Transit Station,
Right.
and the other one is just north of the Walmart. So that was part of an annexation agreement.
Okay.
And I met this week with Actus, Richard Groves, because they're in the process of developing that.
Okay.
It's 2 hubs, time's coming. I made the operational decision to create a priority processing on that project because of the contractual requirements associated with RTD and the building of that facility. So we need to give that our utmost attention operationally so that we can meet their timeframes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you didn't know, we got 2 hubs coming. Okay. That's good. Thanks for sharing that, Carol. They're going to have public comment, and they want the community to look at all the stops they're going to have from the the transit BRT, and all the stops, because they want to make sure that those are the stops that are, I'm saying, equitable for the community, because it's going to go down. I don't know, I have the chart. Phil is going to send it to everybody so you all can see. But the whole point is not going to have very many stops. So they want to make sure that when they do stop, that it's where people would be able to be there for it. So May 5th and May 6th is public input. It'll be a virtual meeting. One will be in the morning or in the early afternoon, and one will be in the evening. CU is the second destination from Longmont, and the bus station there in Boulder is number 1. So that's because we all have to take that to go to the airport.
Exactly.
But they go around basically CU, to be honest. There's because I complained about going to the airport and coming back to Longmont. We all complained about not having a bus directly to the airport, and I said, my last flight I was coming in. Your last bus was at 11:20. My flight was at 10 something, and I couldn't make that bus. And I said, why don't you have later flights? But on Sunday, get this, on Sunday, the latest bus is at 1:20 in the morning, because CU students come back on Sunday, and so they change their bus schedules, which I get it. I understand that's the highest time, but why don't you do it on Saturdays too? Anyway, so if y'all didn't know, now you know. CDOT is working on their service development plan and should be ready by the end of the year. A long time coming. They've been saying that for how long?
Yeah, I don't really believe it.
Yeah. They said they're working on it. They completed the report March 1st, which actually puts together the framework for the plan. So they did do that part. So Alex will be reinstated in September.
Not the whole, very limited service, they said.
Yes.
Sorry, Councilwoman, you cut out for a second. What's going to be reinstated?
LX.
The LX1.
Yeah, will be reinstated in September. Okay.
And that goes
To Union Station. It's a commuter bus, so it's early in the morning, and it was always packed.
Okay, and then this is just the only little bit I got for the commuter rail and the inner city rail stuff. What they decided was that they're gonna do the joint service. You probably already know that. 8 stations total and maybe 3 RTD stations. Because there's not much funding for commuter rail. There's more funding for the inner city rail. Joint service will be done. They said that all of this will be done hopefully by 2029.
Well, the joint service has to be done by July. They have to decide by July whether they're going to put the money into the joint service. So,
Well, it sounded like they were, it's RTD though. Okay. Basically, LDDA, staff put together a 2025 work plan to incorporate goals and strategies. Because the last one was 2017, and now they're working on the one from 2025 to 2030. They're doing a May cleanup, and they're providing grants for their awning. They're providing 50% off those businesses who want to clean their awning, and also during this time they'll have the parking lot cleaning as well. Longmont Create and Longmont DDA has a MOU, and the reason why they got an MOU is to change to help with making the reporting simpler and grow capacity for Longmont Creates and increase funding through the nonprofit, and it would be helpful for them to be recertified of the creative district. Let's see, and also what they're trying to DDA is also trying to help businesses with reimbursing like retail conversion. And also incentives on signage and things like that. Yeah. And I think Pelo's Deli is open as well. Also, the gift card program monthly sales was down for the month of March. So if you all know you're going to be shopping downtown, get gift cards and purchase some gift cards for families and things like that. And one of the things that we did talk about was the vacancy rate for businesses and how they leave them vacant for so long. Well, Boulder had this conversation yesterday on vacant homes. They're exploring a vacancy tax on homes that sit empty most of the year, and they have over 4,000 vacant homes in Boulder.
oh my gosh.
Yes, yes, it was
I wonder what we have.
It's not that high.
I don't think we have 4,000
Why would think
homes.
that we have that?
Are they
It's a
talking
fairly
about
low percent.
single homes or these units, apartment units, or?
So I took a little blurb out of the article. The Boulder City Council has begun exploring a vacancy tax on homes that sit empty most of the year, likely targeting second homeowners. With as many as 4,000 vacant homes, officials say the tax could generate up to $2 million annually and help address the city's housing shortage.
Part of the housing shortage is they're not putting anybody in those
Nobody in
houses.
those 4,000 houses.
Yeah.
Right.
They're charging.
Was $2 million get you half a house in Boulder?
Yeah.
I know.
Maybe have a garage. A garage. So I had brought up about creating some type of vacancy fee for businesses where the owners of these businesses are not here in the state of Colorado, and and not taking care of their businesses, or even the ones that are here that are not taking care of their
Seems
businesses.
like an easier thing to deal with than trying to talk about telling somebody to get rid of their second home because they're living in Arizona 6 months of the year for, because they're snowbird, they leave here. I would think that would be harder to push, but having a vacant building or business is easier argument.
Well, it affects the surrounding businesses too.
Yeah.
Right? And so anyway, we were exploring that. I don't know, council will have to be the one to actually create an ordinance to where, you know, we would have to look around and research and look and see how we could do that. But there are many cities. I know when I went to NLC, when we were in Atlanta, there were many cities who did that for in their city, where if a business hadn't done there were no type of activity, maybe some illegal activity because there's no attention to it. Exactly. They put some type of fee or tax to it. So after a year, if you hadn't done anything with your business, then they charge a certain percentage or whatever. I don't know, but that's something we will have to look into. And if that's something council want to look into, we should talk about that at a different time. But I do think we should do that because we have a lot of vacant, empty buildings in the city of Longmont. A lot of businesses, yeah.
Not to mention over at 17.
Yeah. So last thing, sister cities. Some of you were here when we talked about the mayor of Chino is coming, and his delegates, and they will be here from May the 2nd through the 7th, and we will be having a dinner with the Japanese consulate at the Callahan House on Sunday, May the 4th at 6 p.m. And just please respond to Rachel to let her know if you all are attending, because she is catering food for that event. Right now, I think she has like 36 people who have signed up already. So, and then they have a fundraiser. If you all have King Super, if you shop at King Supers, they are asking people to get the little shopping cards and just sign up online or whatever to make sure you put Sister City. So every time you swipe that card, you pay with that card, a certain percentage goes towards Sister City, so we can get students to participate in these programs.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and that's all.
Okay. Susie, you want to just say who you are? Because we went around and had roll call, so.
Oh, Susie Nova, Preparing Council.
Thank you.
So for the museum, and we are meeting again on Wednesday. So this is from last month. The biggest news from the museum was that they're no longer leading the Dia de los Muertos. They're taking a step back from that one.
Really?
And yeah, go ahead. You can speak.
Yeah. So they all got a little bit out in front of their headlights.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they have to come and chat with me
Okay.
about that.
So one rationale that they presented during our meeting was that they wanted to, you maybe refocus their direction where another entity might pick up the lead on that, and then they could be more of a supportive role. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you guys are gonna. I'll let you guys do your thing. But I had expressed concerns. I said, I had
It's a big event.
It is a big event, and it's very meaningful to the Latino community. I think it kind of helps bring people in the door, and they, people take ownership, especially having those altars in that museum space. But they gave some very valid reasons about why they wanted to take a step back and allow other groups or other departments or even outside community groups to take the lead on that.
Well, I was going to say that the Nepalese were there last year as well.
Yes.
They had a setup, and then there was another, I think,
and
Eastern Pacific.
yes. Yeah, Pacific Islander. And I know that it's going to be challenging with the, I think this fall they can't, because of construction, that kind of impacted. I mean, so what we're doing in the street would be different, but what's happening in the little foyer over there.
Yes. So again, they're kind of outrunning their headlights a little bit.
Okay. And that's
So-
good. That's a start.
So that's what they're thinking. There's supposed to be an item coming to council
Okay.
on this to talk about. I don't think it's it's a fully baked concept yet in terms of unintended consequences
Yeah.
and things like that. To your
Okay.
point, I have similar concerns, especially as we're trying to establish connections with different areas of our community. one of the things I said when I met with the board is they're asking about other funding, and I really stress the outreach to areas of our community that don't visit our museum and things like that.
Yep.
The other challenge in terms of the construction schedule is when we're looking at the inflationary pressures on projects, they have put it out to bid. I am asking them to do a deep dive into what inflation and tariffs are going to do to construction pricing because we don't have the funding to fill a gap. Assuming that we probably need to add anywhere from 20 to 30% to the cost of the project. And so I'm waiting on that report to really see, because you add 20%, you're cutting a lot out of something you want to build. And so I'm waiting on that information as well. So
I thank you for that update.
yeah, Zach just briefed me today on this.
Okay, good. And then for the arts and public places, they talked about the desire to reduce the number of commissioners. I think there were 15, I recall, and then they want to drop it down to 9. So it allows people, so they can really become more strategic on who's on the commission. We have, I guess there's some frustration about folks not kind of doing their part.
Hard to get a quorum sometimes if you have that large of a.
What's that?
Don't you have? A quorum. You have to have
more people. I don't think
you
that's.
have to have like 7.
Yeah.
You have
So
to have
since
people.
I've been on, I have not run into where they wouldn't meet, and I don't know, you were on there as well, where it was ever an issue. But I think what they want is they want people who are highly experienced for this role, that they, and so if they minimize that number, they can really concentrate on, I guess, picking, top people who know what it's, what it means to be a commissioner for arts and public places. And so we have some folks who are really active and they volunteer, and then others, they're barely making the meetings. So I think they wanted to kind of streamline that and have more activity with a smaller number. And I know sometimes in the meetings it's kind of hard to wrangle up people, and there's a lot of ideas, and it can be kind of long. So then that might be coming to us. We'll have to vote on that. So it will be coming to us later, I think, once they kind of finalize and the board comes to a consensus with that, commissioners. Library has expressed continued concern over federal funding cuts, especially that seem to be targeted towards things like the library, like education. So looking at, so I think from the board's perspective, what they want to do is look at how they can do more community engagement. So the board wants to be more active in, getting the, why it's important to have a library in a community. And, they were really appreciative of what we did with putting the money towards the drop boxes. So, even looking if we go to the west side, possibility of even doing like a vending machine type thing in the future.
There's a lot of enthusiasm.
There's a lot. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. So that's what we wanted. So and then also the Friends Board. So there are some people who are stepping down from the Friends Board, so they're trying to recruit more people for that role. They really would like to see the Friends play more of an active role as far as fundraising goes. I mean, what they bring in is pretty, it's very minimal, and they really heavily rely on that. The book sales, I think last year's numbers, it had declined, so what they were able to get out was not as substantial. So they kind of looked at what the museum, Friends of the Museum is doing, or the different Stewart Foundation, and so what could they do, or how can they work with the Friends to kind of boost that up, to hopefully that they can be more of a source of money driver, like having fundraisers. But a lot of the folks in the group are retired educators, or just some people who are really reserved and just enjoy the library. So they're not kind of, it takes a personality to get out there and organize these events and bring in speakers. And
The Friends of the Library are too bookish.
Yes! Yes, they're very like just mild
readers,
folks,
not-
mild
yeah.
folks. They just they talk about books and all that. So youth council, they had no meeting. Meeting this month was canceled. Or next week we'll be meeting, or the 4th. Yeah, next week is the 4th. No, 3rd. So the following week we'll be meeting. But they were very happy about the life skills fair, so they took the week off to kind of regroup from the life skills fair, and the kids were out there leading and taking kids around the booths. And
So cool.
it was very cool. So they worked really hard on that. They even devised different questionnaires, quick questions. So if a kid is responding this way, how would the youth council member respond to that situation? So it was like a lot of cause and effect stuff going on, and they really stepped up. So it was.
Are they kind of wrapping their year up here?
They are, yes. And so I was talking to Jenny as well, and she's still trying to work with Sandy to figure out a time so we haven't dropped it. It's just she's trying to work out logistics for a council-to-council.
Well, if it doesn't happen, maybe we should have it when they come in new.
Mm-hmm.
Think
That
about
was
That might be a
that
better,
was the
like
other,
at least we could figure something like that.
Yeah, so no, we were playing around with all kinds of different ideas. And then RCAB, they're meeting quarterly now. And the last meeting we met, we talked about waste diversion and deconstruction, so it was very exciting to see council's enthusiasm, our council's enthusiasm around bringing in deconstruction. Because that's a tricky operation, but we're very fortunate because we're so close to Boulder, so we can, and Boulder has a facility.
Yeah.
So we can piggyback onto what they're doing. Couple other things. One, the core and leads team. I sit on that steering committee, and we met last Friday, so I was able to jump in their Zoom call. That piece. And so some of the highlights that they talked about was last year they had on their database 930 calls for service, unique persons in crisis 578. They made 2,064 follow-ups, and the median number of follow-ups per person was 3. So they're really making sure that circling back and following up with folks. So it's increasing a lot. The number of diversions, crisis assessments, and medical expertise has increased from last year to this year. So it's our medical expertise present. So in a call. So that's that's really increasing, and it's impacting the kind of interactions public safety is having with the public. We talked about the LEAD and ANGEL initiative. And our partners with Hope and Elder, Recovery Cafe, and Boulder County Public Health, and Annie and Millie's Place. So those were our partners that we work closely with. One of the things we were talking about is how can I just want to know, like, what can City Council be doing to support these efforts? Especially with some low-hanging fruit stuff, or just even presence, as we're working to get education out to the public. So that's, I think, so one of the things that they're struggling with is just having people, when they do have an education event, are people coming, so attendance kind of gets spotty at times, depending on what the event is. So, we're kind of working through that as a team, and I'm trying to think what else. Oh, they are, I don't want to say consolidating, but there's one FTE that they have for a clinician that they're pausing right now. So they're trying to be just really strategic on how they're spending money and making sure that it's the best bang for their buck. So they're kind of reevaluating what they want to do. However, we do have, and I think it's called SCORE, the school core team that will be coming out. And I think it's this fall, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So that will be starting. So kids in crisis at schools can actually contact the SRO, and then you can have access to core clinicians for youth. So that's now more than ever we need that. And then the NWMCC update. I'll just give a little bit because that's your
Okay.
jam. But
No,
But she still hasn't gone.
but I have.
oh yeah. So I'll just do that really quick. It was very enlightening, and
So this was the trip that they made to
DC. Yes.
It's always a transfer.
There, a couple updates that I'll just mention. So the RAISE grant is no longer called the RAISE grant; it's called the BUILD grant. BUILD. This administration, and when we met with US DOT, we asked what can we do to ensure that we get these grants? So what are some trigger words? What are some words? So anything that includes diversity, equity, bicycle lanes is a no.
Women.
Bicycle.
Okay, they don't want bicycle lanes. Multimodal was an iffy. We heard from a couple of people that maybe not
So
use
can we
that
call them
term.
accidental car overflow
So
lanes?
the focus, yes, the focus is on safety. Getting those shovels to the ground right away. So as soon as
Shovel ready, yeah.
shovel ready projects, and have, I guess, so safety economic drivers. So looking at how we can incorporate those kinds of language into our grant, or even when we're communicating with our legislators, to focus on those pieces. What's interesting is though when you look at Vision Zero or equity, I mean that's
What's the reverse?
it's safety.
What's the opposite of woke? I'm just trying to figure out.
I don't know.
Because this is
But
like
But
the
there are
devolution of
stretches, so
evolving.
that was in talking with the team, there are stretches of highway that we cannot go out. The land space, the engineering behind it, you can't go out. So what can we do to supplement and support? So that was one of the things I mentioned with the US DOT people, is rail. So you have rail, you're minimizing the number of cars in this space, so people are still doing their commute, and it improves commerce because they're going to spaces, these stations where there's other businesses. So it was just kind of meeting people where they were, and just
See,
remember.
that's what the CDOT engineers were talking about, is creating capacity. So if you
Yeah.
have, now you've
Yep.
added rail, you have maybe double the capacity.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's,
You're done?
yeah, I'll let you go.
Huh?
So the first thing is that I want to say is that Michelle sent us out an email tonight that she wanted us to talk about. And it is the appreciation celebration or dinner or whatever for our board and board commissioners, board members and commissioners. And number one, before we mention anything, she wants to know if we are willing to take the cost of it out of council contingency. We don't need to decide that tonight, but, and then.
As long as we can make an accept list for certain board and commissioners. I know we can't do that.
Well, some people up here pay as well. I'd like to exclude them.
Everyone can be appreciated except for you.
You. So,
Do you have an idea how much it is?
Yeah, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, because she didn't
She didn't
mention the
provide,
cost. Yeah.
no, she didn't. But I'm just reiterating the email, which I'm sure you all read, so that at our next meeting, somebody can make a motion, think about it. What do we want to do? Do we want to have a luncheon? Do we want to give them gift cards to certain areas? How many people are we talking about? Like your 15-member board. So I just wanted to bring that up. So she asked us to talk about it, and any creative or low-cost ideas that we have would be good. The other thing is that I met with a group, Dylan Rankin, John Limke, Peter Champ, on
Right choice.
rent. And what they would like is for this to be on the ballot in November. So they give me tons of literature and I think that, didn't you meet with him also, Matthew? So I want you to think about it. I emailed Molly Fitzpatrick,
Is this just for like city elections?
Yes, city elections only. There are two ways to go about this. You can have single or multi-winner RCV or single winner. RCV. The single winner is pretty easy to get on the ballot. The multi-winner is a little bit more difficult, and I don't want to go into that because Molly is supposed to answer that for me as the county clerk. I don't want to say something ridiculous. But I do have a lot of literature. If you wanted, I didn't know if we should be printing out all of this stuff. I just got tons of it. I thought, I can't email it all to you. I guess I can. So anyway, I want you to think about this. This is the way that Aaron Brockett became mayor last election. They had a single winner, ranked choice voting, and I think there were like 9 people who signed up to be mayor, and he won. So the way it works is that the one paper I gave you, which is the colored one, yeah, those are the 3 options, and it tells how it works. I have to study it. I just met with them on Sunday. It basically, the first one is what we do now, how we vote for our elected officials now. The second one is it's when we vote for all the wards. For as many people as want to run for each of those wards, we vote first choice, second choice, third choice. And on a separate ballot issue, it would be all of the at-large, because it's huge. Rather than having just 2 or 3 people, it's everybody that, and you choose them according to the wards. Like if you want 4 people, who would be your first choice? It would be your second. And then the votes go to the next person.
We lost him.
Sometimes
So-
Is that us or them?
it's the
I
he was
will-
doing it to me earlier.
I will email you all of this stuff because I do have it in, there's some of it I won't email to you because it's what everyone else has done. But several cities in Colorado are doing this already, ranked choice vote. So, do any of you know much about this? I don't, I'm being honest.
I don't know how it works. I heard it. I don't know if Will County is really interested in doing it. Because we have both counties to worry about, not just one.
Yeah.
I've worked elections since 2014, and before then, when it was, when you had to walk in.
I know a little bit about it and would be happy to share more another time, probably. If we wanted
Someone's
to have a
talking
discussion
right
about
now? Diane's talking.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't
All
hear
right,
that.
that's
Sorry.
fine.
I'm not talking loud enough, so I talk loud. So it's really hard to get a result. It may take 2 weeks before you have a decision. And a lot of people are confused by it. There's just no other way to say it.
Good. Okay, Matthew, what were you saying?
I was going to say, I know a fair amount about not just what the group that you met with proposed, but also some of the structures across the country on that. Really, the key is how it's implemented and how people are educated about it. So I'd suggest we probably have a separate conversation if we want to consider putting that on the ballot as a council at some point, because I think it merits that. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to have this discussion, I think, at a study session maybe, and after everybody learns about it.
Yeah. So, I'd like to have a presentation. If these folks are the ones leading it, would people be interested in hearing more about ranked choice voting?
Well, yeah, I guess I would. I think it's kind of like Diane's point. The only thing is that I find a little bit of a slippery slope to getting into other politics, kind of the backdoor way of eliminating, party politics at other levels that I'm not exactly convinced is necessary. But I don't know how this truly benefits us now that Dawn has done her has extended the time when she has to have the votes counted. This works is a little easier on her because there's that time already built into the system. But Yeah, I'd have to hear their thoughts on it. I'm not necessarily convinced it benefits us in any direct way.
Okay. What was I gonna say?
But, I mean, I'm open.
Well, it's a learning thing, and they want it on the ballot in November, so it would have to be a fast decision. And you don't need to do it, but
I kind of think that it's kind of like a lot of things. If you want it on the ballot so bad, go get the signatures.
well, that's what I want to talk to
Yeah, I kind of
Molly
feel
about.
like
And
that's-
I don't want to say
Yeah.
yes or no, but they do have 225 signatures.
No,
So
Well, that's
we'll-
not close.
that's not even close to what you need.
I don't know what you need. It's just for the city.
Well, I know, but
That would be for the county.
for at large, you have to have at least
50.
50, and if you know what you're doing, you probably have to get at least twice that.
You're
Probably gonna be
petitioning not to
Thousand, that's what
It's
I
gonna
want.
be in the thousands.
Yeah, exactly.
And once I get that information to them, that would probably count. The other thing is that they would like it to be, and I don't know if it has to be, well, it would be a charter amendment, which means 2/3 of the vote of the electorate. It's not just a majority. So it's a lot of work
Political campaign.
for a short time, for one thing. But I told him I would bring it to you, and it'll probably come up again.
It's been brought.
Yes.
It has.
It has been brought, okay. We had at the DRCOG meeting, this MetroVision is the update on the new MetroVision. It's huge, and a lot of the parts of MetroVision are adopted in comp plans. So I'm going to leave it in the council office. Anyone that wants to read it, I think that when we do another look at Envision Longmont, we should try to incorporate part of the MetroVision in it. And one of the big reasons is through DRCOG you get tons of money. So if you need grants it's for housing, it's for transportation, they've really expanded on what it is they fund. But I'm looking at it for rail. So I want to say a little bit about, I had an executive meeting on Front Range Passenger Rail today, in that I am asking, because we haven't had a strategic plan for the whole build out. Right now, we're just focusing for SB 184 on Union to Fort Collins. And Lisa is, what is her last name? I always forget. She is the one that gave the presentation, and
Not
no,
one?
no.
It's,
Kaufman.
So when she gave the presentation, I was a little nervous about it, because what she gave was the cost only and how the funds were gathered for Denver to Fort Collins, and that she has a funding mechanism that could fund that whole area without going to the voters. But we plan on going to the voters in 2026. What FRPR is focusing on is the entire stretch from Fort Collins to Pueblo, and the MOU with Cheyenne, Wyoming. Some of the things that we talked about today is that I want a strategic vision that we can go to the voters with and say, this is exactly how it's going to be built, and when. And we're deciding different things on when we should go to the voters for a tax. It's very complicated in one sense, but it's very simple. I mean, it makes I find it incredibly interesting, and I think we can do it. But there's a lot, just like any big board of 15 people, which is way too big. A lot of So that's really all I've got. I have NGLA tomorrow. That's it. Northwest Mayors and Commission. I turn it over to you. The thing that on this ranked choice voting, I need to say, here's my concern. The what is it called?
Save Act.
The SAVE Act through the federal government that made it through the House It's going to go to the Senate. This act is very scary to me, and it'll make a big difference on how we do all our votes anyway. The thing with ranked choice voting is that the only way it really works is with the algorithms. Because if you have to do it by hand, it would take forever. But now with this SAFE Act, the way it is written, from the way I interpret it, is that it is going to cut out all mail-in ballots. Because you have to have proof that you were born in the country. And how do you do that? Most people don't have their birth certificate. They don't. So it's going to cut out all the military overseas, all the kids studying overseas. It might cut out, again, all the women who've been married because it doesn't match. It's very scary. So any decision that we make on elections, we have to wait and see if that
Definitely a
passes the
level of
Senate.
hassle that is put into the system for a system that has extremely low voter fraud. What most voter fraud is somebody whose husband or somebody passes and they said, oh, they hadn't turned in. I mean, that's about the extent of it.
It's
like
about
the
less
stupidest
than
dumb
1%
yes,
of the
literally,
population.
literally, like
Okay.
160.
We work very hard on elections. If people knew how hard we work.
I know I've worked it.
Yeah. But I will say the military will not be cut out. They have their own system. And if you're in the military, they
But
know
they're not-
exactly if you're who you are and where you
But
come
not
from.
the contractors, not the military contractors. There are a lot of.
There are a lot of
Yeah, there
military.
are a lot.
There are contractors.
I know a lot.
And I always felt that was sad because they're not VA, so they don't get the benefits even though they're over there.
They're
They get paid good money.
Mooses.
Well, anyway,
military contractors.
So
Yeah.
those people. So we are done.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Bring 'em in.